Personhood is a funny concept. I mean, what do we mean when we talk about a person? I mean, a person is somebody who's a member of the moral community, someone who has interests that we protect because of the perceived moral value of that person. We could talk about personhood as a strictly legal concept, and I mean, you could talk about corporations are persons and ships are persons, by which it is only meant, well, a corporation can sue and be sued, it can own property like a human person can, but really the concept of personhood that you're trying to get at is the moral concept of personhood, and really, we can divide the universe up into persons and things. Those beings, those entities that have moral interests that we protect because of the perceived moral value of those beings, and everything else. Now, most of the other things that we have in the universe, at least now, are not sentient things. They're possessions. They're your car, your stereo, your house, your chair, whatever. These are not objects which have any interest. So to talk about their personhood, I mean, the concept of personhood is very, very closely connected to the concept of interests, okay? In that a person is an entity who has interests that are regarded as morally significant, and where those interests are protected because of the moral value of the possessor of those interests, okay? So most of the things that we have, remember, distinction, persons, things, most of the things that we have are non-sentient things. They're stereos, cars, chairs. The two recent examples of where we have had things which are sentient, which have interests, okay? And when I say interests, what I mean simply is to say if a being has interests, then there are things that being prefers or desires or wants. There's nothing that a chair prefers or desires or wants, okay? There's nothing a plant prefers or desires or wants. Plants are alive, but as far as we know, they're not sentient. There's nothing that they prefer or desire or want. There's no mind there, okay? The two examples, recent historical examples, where we've had things which have interests, human slaves, okay, and animals. Those are things, they're not persons, they are things which have interests. And we abolished slavery, at least we supposedly abolished slavery some time ago, because we recognized that we really, there were a lot of moral problems with treating humans as things, that you really couldn't do that. The present category of sentient beings that we have that still remain as things are non-human animals. They are things. They are not persons. They have no interests that we protect because we recognize they have a moral value. Animals have all sorts of interests. The only interests that the animal welfare laws require be protected are the interests that you have to protect in order to exploit those animals in an economically efficient way. So yeah, you've got to give food and water to the cow, because if the cow drops dead of starvation and dehydration, the cow's not going to be very useful as meat. If you don't give food and water to a laboratory animal, and it's not a starvation or dehydration experiment, then that will introduce a stress. And it's perfectly all right. I mean, we allow people to do dehydration and starvation experiments, but if it's not a dehydration experiment or starvation experiment, you've got to give food and water to the animal, and if you don't, then variables come in, that stress variables come in that can jeopardize the scientific integrity of your data.